Good afternoon, and welcome to A Beer with the Old Growler. I'm the Old Growler, Pete LaFrance, and I'm glad to have you with me on this rather dull and dreary afternoon. Okay, today it's Friday the 5th of June, 2020, and today is day 80 of Shelter in Place, or as we call it here in New York City, pause. Although, we've got a couple more days. On the 8th, tomorrow, Monday, we will supposedly start to slowly reopen. Okay, but anyways, and it's also day 55 of the Old Growler, and I tell you, it's been quite a run, hasn't it? But what does it all mean? It all means, if you look on the front page of the program we have, take a look there in the Old Growler. I'll explain it to you. Essentially what it is that since all the pubs, bars, and taverns have been closed down, and since I've been covering the industry for about 35 or 40 years, it's time for me to take a look and say, wait a minute, what happens when everything stops? Well, I found out. And so that's how the Old Growler came about. So it's 5 o'clock, and I decided to invite the world, and here we are. And so the Old Growler, yes, we did. We went across the way to holy shit, no, wait a minute. Let me look at that. All right, well, okay. We got us a fresh growler of this, and it is single cut. And let me check the receipt. Oh yeah, for those of you who come here often, visit often, you'll know that the receipt is how I remember what kind of beer we've got. And today we have Finback Rolling Clouds. Okay. And yeah, okay, Rolling Clouds. So we'll find out what it's like. Let's crack it open. Keep the beer away from the computer. We've had fun with that before. No, another cloudy beer. I don't like cloudy beers. What the hell? All right. Jerry Scott gave me a call, message earlier. Well, come on now. Let's get off of this. Here we go. It is, I say, the 5th, the Friday, the 5th of June, 2020, the 80th day of being in place, the 55th growler, and it's 5:03. So cheers. Oh, that's a hoppy little. It's got a lot of Cascade hop in there, boy. That's grapefruit. That's a grapefruit. That's a breakfast drink. But hey, that's the way things go. Okay, for those of you who have been here before, you know the name of the game. You know how the things are run here, and the fact that the Old Growler, essentially, the complete tasting notes, came out of. If you take a look at the playlist called Tasting Notes at the Henry Street Ale House, or Henry Street Ale House Tasting Notes. That way you'll see, gee, we've been doing that for about maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And then came the shutdown. Oh dear, yes. But anyways, let me explain how we did our tastings. What we would do is let me take a look here. Here we go. We got a can here. The Henry Street Ale House is over in Brooklyn Heights. It's right there on Henry Street, the end of the Brooklyn Bridge. So if you're visiting, take a look. I'll give an address and an email address down in the contents box so that you can find the place. But in any event, nice little place. We would do beer tastings there on Thursdays. Myself, the bar manager and bartender, Jerry Scott, a friend of mine, Jim Bennis, and we always had at least one other person helping out with the tastings. And I mean, you can understand why. Free beer. Anyways, what we would do is, it was called Meeting Expectations. And what we would do is look at the can or the bottle and see what are they trying to sell us. We would look at the name of we'd find, the name of the brewer. So that gives us an idea of the style or the school of beer. the name of the beer. It gives you an idea. Then they usually tell you what it is, and you've got the alcohol by volume, and sometimes they put in all kinds of good stuff like international bittering units. They'll explain what it is all about, and then Jerry would crack it open, and we would all taste and see if it met expectations. If it met expectations, got a thumbs up. If it didn't meet expectations, it got a thumbs down. Every once in a while, we would come across a beer that would exceed expectations, and that called for celebration. That was usually the empty bottle beer, and it was always a lot of fun. So that is what the beer tasting part of the beer with the Old Growler is all about. That's not open, so make careful over there. And as I say, that's part one. Part two is, as I mentioned earlier, having been a journalist, I still am a journalist, please, as far as I know, last time I checked, and covering the beer industry, actually the beverage, alcohol, and hospitality industries. I've been involved in all of that. I published a book, Beer Basics. You can find it on Amazon. I'm sure there's still a few left. It was published back in 1995, so it's a classic. And also Cooking and Eating with Beer, and that was also published by John Wiley in 1997 in hardbound, and a year later in paperback. So I've been, as I say, covering this world of food and entertainment and beverage alcohol for quite a while. So I have some war stories, and I put them together, and they're called My Life as a Professional Barfly. And today we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about how the beer tastings over in the Ale House got started. So if you hang around for that, you'll find out how we all got started with the tastings. But let's see here. It shouldn't be surprised that I do actually try and have a script, more or less. Oh boy. Just a little bit more. Oh. It's not a bad beer. I mean, wow. It's not a bad beer. It is not a good beer either. No, it's a tough call. It's got a good flavor to it, but similar to like if you were on a beach, you know, in Aruba, say, and someone said, "Oh, it's time for lunch," and you say, "Okay," and you get up and you go to the table, and it's a huge bowl of Hungarian goulash and a steaming mug of hot beer or something, or not hot beer. There's no such a thing as hot beer, but steaming mug of mead or something like that, which they wouldn't have in Aruba, I know, but just bear with me. That's not what you would expect to eat. I mean, and it could be the best goulash in all of the world, but however, on a beach in Aruba, it doesn't fit. And today, it's a flavorful. It's all right, you know. It's a size 36 pants, and I'm a size 38, so that's pretty much the way it goes. Greetings, good to see you, and thanks for the thumbs up. Okay, now let's get to the tasting. And as I mentioned earlier, it pretty much falls along the lines of we take a look, and today the tasting is. Yesterday we had another Founders beer. They got the Founders all over. Well, yeah, they sent me 3 beers, and yesterday it was the Más Agave with grapefruit, and today we have the Más Agave. Okay, now as I said yesterday, I've lived in Brooklyn for 4 years, something like that, and you get to speak language. If you don't at least understand basic hello, goodbye in 3 languages, you weren't paying attention. And so Más Agave is more agave. And let's see what it says on here. Okay, the necker says, and that's what it's called up here. This is called a necker, and it says Founders Brewing. So we now know who it comes from. And we take a look at the label, and we find out that it comes from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so we know that. It's a Michigan beer, and it comes in a brown bottle. And the label itself is very Mexican looking to me, or very at least Southwestern. And it's got all and it says on here barrel aged series. Okay, so that means that it's going to be any beer that's been aged in a barrel is going to pick up some color of some kind, usually darker, sometimes more of an amber, but it'll pick up a darker color. It says an Imperial Lime GOSE style ale. Doesn't have a hyphen there, but anyways, Imperial Lime, Imperial. Ooh, whenever I see Imperial, it means it's high in alcohol. A Lime GOSE. Well, I know what a GOSE is. That's a kind of a cloudy beer that has it's traditional to Belgium, and it's wild yeast. So there's going to be a funky flavor. Lime, there we go. Style ale, a GOSE style ale. Okay, so that means it might not be totally too GOSE, but it's in the style. Brewed with agave, aged in tequila barrels. All right, well, I'm expecting a little bit of saltiness then, a little bit of salinity. Let's see what it says on the back. Okay, we love cocktails, like really love them. If you ask us, come on now, if you ask us, few are more refreshing than the tart and tangy margarita, and our latest barrel-aged beer pays tribute to that perennial classic. We took an Imperial GOSE brewed with agave, lime, and sea salt, and then aged it in tequila barrels. Consider it a party in a bottle. Más Agave, more agave. All right, so they're playing the tequila line here. Pretty good. I was going to say tequila lime, but no, I strike that from the record. I never said it. So anyways, what we've got is a relatively, I would say an amber beer, probably a little cloudy, slightly salty, and I didn't notice, oh yeah, here it is, 10% alcohol by volume, and it says release 2020, so it doesn't have any IBUs on here, so I'm willing to bet it's not terribly hopped. So this is going to be a funky beer. Well, what are we looking forward to? We're looking forward to a funky beer that's a little cloudy, brown in color, probably has I would say a brown, slightly tan head to it. The bubbles should be fairly well knit. They'll probably be a little bit big. So that is what we were looking for. And as I said yesterday, the agave, I wasn't quite too sure what I knew that it was salty, and I know what mezcal tastes like. So, and tequila. But let's crack this open and see if it meets expectations. All right. I got myself a wine glass here, and as I always use a wine glass, this type of wine glass for all of the beers, because that way they're playing on a level playing field, and we don't have any special glassware for special beers. All right. Well, it's dark, all right, but it's definitely not cloudy. No, sir. Okay, and it does have a nicely knit head, the meaning all of the bubbles are very small and very close together and dense, and it is slightly brown. That's a nice slightly brown head. Okay, I figured that one out. Okay, now, so it's a little bit, let's see, I'd call it copper colored, and it is nicely effervescent. There's a nice stream of bubbles going up from the bottom there. You can see that on the video better than I can see it here. All right, so it's meeting expectations as far as color and the look of the head, and boy, am I happy it's not a cloudy beer. Okay, let's take a nosedive. Wow, we got lime up the kazootie on this one. Wee boy. Yep, that's lime, boy. Okay, so they've got us on the lime. And while we're on the line, let's talk. Now, here we are. the first sip, swig. Oh, that delivers. Wow. Me oh my. We have a winner, folks. Yes. The salinity, the lime. Oh, wow. They should leave the grapefruit one away. See that? This is this meet beyond expectations. That's for sure. So there we go, folks. The Founders Más Agave for 2020. Does it meet expectations? It certainly does. In fact, it exceeds expectations. So the Old Growler is hoping that all of your beers meet expectations, if not exceed them. That is, oh boy, I gotta get more of these for a hot summer day. And as you can see, it is a hot summer day in a t-shirt and a straw fedora there. And I've got an old, let's see if I can stand up a little bit. It's the old New York City Homebrewers Guild t-shirt. And this goes back, that goes back over 30 years. So it shows you how much the old timers, the Old Growler has been around. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. If you're a beer geek, you're not going to like this because it's nowhere near a beer, but it is a beer, but it has flavor that's so nicely done. Now, careful, Peter. Move these away down south in Dixie. No, down here, and this goes over here, and this is not empty yet. Oh, thank goodness! Oh boy! I've still got some beer in here. Oh boy! All right, well, stay over there, little fella, and you, way over here. I don't want to get my hand near you. Ugh. All right. Let's see. Of course, I have a cheat sheet. Now it's always. Well, let's see what they had to say about it. Okay. We love coffee. Well, this is pretty much what was on the back of the label. 10%. It does have 20 IBUs, so that's not quite a bit. That's a relatively low. I believe most American lagers are pretty much in that range, 20-25 IBUs. Availability May through July. Well, I've only got this month and the next month to stock up. No, but that's one of the things about seasonal, especially beers like this. As I was mentioning, sometimes some things just aren't. As our first beer, it was just not in the right place. But today, on a hot day and outside, it is humid. Oh, sweet Jesus! It's waiting to storm. We're going to have some real storms tonight. Please have some storms tonight. Oh, it'll cool everything. Well, it won't cool everything, but it'll certainly drench everything. Okay. Oh, here we go. Yes, a little bit more on the cheat sheet. Where's the bottle? Where's the can? Bottle, Peter. Okay. Let's shoot the bottle up here. There we go. Okay, you can see it real good. Take a look. Remember it. The label art was largely inspired by Day of the Dead imagery, specifically the elaborate altars built to honor deceased loved ones. Marigolds play heavily in the altars, as it is said that the scent attracts the spirits. Upon the altar, spirits will find their favorite thing, including liquor, pan de muerto, a sweet egg cake, family photos, and other offerings. The monarch butterfly is representative of the travel ancestors make to reach their loved ones during the holiday. And then it goes on to Más Agave will be available across the entire distribution footprint on draft in 4-packs, 12-ounce bottles, 750-milliliter bottles. And Más Agave is the third release in their 219 barrel-aged series, preceded by Backwoods Bastard and KBS. And so we didn't get a chance to try those, but we certainly, oh boy, I tell you, the kids, I'm going to let the kids, the founders, know that they've got themselves a real winner on that one. All right. Well, let me pour just a little bit more so that the bottle is not in danger of being knocked over and spilling. And yes, I'm paranoid about that, especially near a laptop. All right, now we get to for those of you who have stayed around, now is the time to talk about my life as a professional barfly. And I'm going to pretty much outline how and why the tastings happened at the Henry Street Ale House. And also, as I say, please go take a look at the playlist. It's a lot of fun, and we've been doing it for at least, as I say, 2 years now, or until March. In any event, when I first started doing beer tastings, I would do them, and you can see that playlist as well. It's called beer tastings at the kitchen table, or kitchen table beer tastings. And that was where I sat in the apartment here at the kitchen table, and would open up a bottle of beer and would pour it, and would semi-rate it, but it would be on the traditional lines. According to the American the Brewers Association, the Brewers Association, they have a long list, and if I remember to do it, I will have a link below that will link you to the list of the styles of beer that exist. And so there's hundreds of styles, and so I would sit there at the kitchen table and dissect each beer. Well, no, you don't dissect a beer, you dissect a frog. Let's see now, deconstruct the beer. And having done some home brewing and visited many breweries and microbreweries, I have an idea of what's going on inside the beer. And so I would sit there and scientific, well, not so much scientifically, but objectively deconstruct the beer. And it was fun for me, but it was also, it wasn't terrible. It meant that I sat there and it was my opinion. Well, I guess again, it was almost 2 years ago. Bartender Jerry Scott had just gotten a position over at the ale house, and he's been, as I've mentioned many times before, a bartender in Brooklyn, and had been in some of the better beer bars to begin with, and some of the more fun bars, even if they weren't beer bars. But he knows his beers, he knows his liquors, knows how to run a bar, and so very memorable. And I've been hanging out with him for before I moved into Brooklyn, so it's over 40 years. And so he got the position and went over, and I remember the place. It used to be the sister to a brew pub that was in Park Slope, and the owner owned both places. And one of the fun things was that there was a fan system that was run by leather belts up in the ceiling, and it would squeak a little bit. And if you sat there, you would think that there were birds in the place. But I digress. What was really great about the place is that the end of the bar, I love to sit at the end of the bar. This one is near a window, and with video work, light is incredibly important. And in the kitchen, my kitchen reviews, that was why I did it there, because I had good light coming in. Well, the light was coming in very good at the ale house. There was a bartender that we knew beer, and customers as well. So we said, well, I said to Jerry, if I bring in beer, and believe me, my bar tab, well, I don't admit to anything, Peter, but it was I enjoy my beers. Let me put it, the beers, plural. So I didn't have to convince Jerry too much. That if I could just bring in one or two outside beers, and if they caught attention, maybe pick up a case and see if it floated at the ale house. So we decided to do it, and we started out with it was on a Mondays, I believe, because Mondays was a slow day around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's between service more or less, and they opened up at noon, and it was pretty slow. So it was a way of having me sitting in the window and folks coming by, and it is at the end of the Brooklyn Bridge, and many of the social media applications mention it as a place to go if you are walking across the bridge into Brooklyn Heights and you are thirsty, or you need to use the bathroom or the water closet. So we did get regular customers about that time, so it became a little difficult to do any kind of real tastings until Bright Boy here said, well, geez, we got customers, why not include them? And some people like to be on videos and some people don't. Yeah, but we found that out, that's for sure. But the fun part was that it wasn't eventually, well, not eventually, but almost immediately, it wasn't just regulars. It wasn't just myself, Jim, and Jerry. Other folks would certainly, and some of the regular people that used to come in to the other waterfront, to the Waterfront Ale House and to some of the other places that Jerry worked, call them Jerry's kids. Not to disparage the comedian and his very righteous cause, but that was Jerry's kids. We're Jerry's kids. So we always had a good base. And one of the interesting things that I started to learn was that when you taste a beer, particularly after you've read the information, if there are any nuances, it's very easy for someone to lead the other tasters. Someone will pick up a banana in a wheat beer, or a banana in a pale ale or something like that, and you'll be going looking for it, and psychologically you start looking for it, and so it makes it interesting to hear the observations of others as to how they perceive flavors that you think you're perceiving. Again, we don't see the world as we don't taste the world as it is. We taste it as we are. Sorry, Anise. Okay. So that was the first thing, and I knew a little bit about that from setting up beer tastings as a home brewer, but also following it at Beverage Media professionally, as doing the tastings that beer companies would, especially the large beer companies, trying to impress people, would set it up so that the heavier beers would be at the front, or the lighter beers would be at the front, and the heavier beers would be at the end, and you'd be like, this is terrible. Oh, what wonderful stuff. But that was something that, as far as leading, it was it. And every once in a while, particularly with tourists coming in, different senses of taste. They're used to a lager that had a certain type of a profile, and we would give them a Brooklyn lager, which of course for us for them would be more of a brown ale. And so the discussions of flavors started to come up, and it was always interesting to hear their description of what we would consider a pale ale. Well, that was the first surprise. The next was adapting the format a little bit. We started out very rough on it, but we didn't want to be traditionally doing a traditional tasting. This was a fun tasting, a tasting of beer for fun, and that was why we didn't put any ratings 1 through 5 or 2 through 4 or whatever. It was just either up or down, or excellent, or we. I don't think there's been 2 that we simply I didn't make the video of, so, or it never saw the light of day. So that was part of it. That was the other thing that I really took away from the experience was working. Let's see if I can reach it without taking the whole world apart, and if I can find one back there. Reach. Oh dear. Let's see. Okay. Yes, here. It's hiding up here. I learned, and let's see. There's, oh, here it is. It turned down to equipment use and learning to use equipment. Now, this is it's a tripod, but it's also you can put the camera on the end of this, and it is a good way to record the tastings. Even more so, I learned one of the people at the bar is a sound technician, a boom mic operator for sports for one of the major networks, and he was advising me that you need more of a instead of just working off of the camera, and this is the camera that I use. It's a Canon GX or G7X, and I think it's a 3. One of the third issues to come out, but that's the basic camera that does stills, video, and in very bad light as well. And so when you use the whoopee stick and this microphone, hook it up on a adapter like this. So you got the camera, the microphone at the end of the. It looks scary, but it allowed me to increase the quality of the work that I was doing, and that was certainly important to me. And then as far as being a professional barfly, getting my information and communicating with people, that is an invaluable lesson, learning how to use that type of equipment. The other was pod production, and I'm boring you right now, I'm sure, but it was a matter of simply we would taste at least 2 beers, and sometimes 3, and every once in a while a spirit would drop by, which meant we had a gin or a vodka, or gins particularly. We had some really tasty gins to taste, and that was altogether after about the 3rd beer, it's tough to differentiate. So it was a matter of cutting down to 2. So that was again, it's technique that you learn in putting together these types of things. And of course, as I mentioned, we mix things up. We have spirits as well. We haven't done a wine yet. It's possible that might happen, but we'll see. Well, I have done here. What did I discover? Well, in particular, the more we would have others taste with us, it was important to listen, for me, to listen to what other people perceived of the flavors and the aromas and the colors that I perceived. That was listening to the others, listening to their perceptions, and stepping away from my own. And that was a very important. I've learned a lot about that. The other was, and in part of it is, and this is a for those of you who are writers out there, you'll understand more than I'm speaking kind of jargon to you guys. The rest of you, I'm saying exactly what I mean. When it comes to, well, I'll tell you, I'll show you. Now, I have to describe that flavor. It's lime, yes. It's salty, yes. Or is it salinity? Saline is seawater. No, it's not quite sharp. It has a tang to it. You see all of the different words involved. And it is a stretch. There are wheels of flavor that the wine tasting people use, and wheels of flavor that beer tasters use. Floral and floral. New Mown Hay. If for both the wine people and the beer people, cat pee. Certain wines simply, that's what they smell like. Horse blanket for some beers. Oh yeah, some of the funk that goes on, the farmhouse funk for some of the farmhouse beers in France. Almost fecal for some of the wheat beers. So in describing beers, that's one of the very difficult things, and one of the things that I was very pleased and have been to learn from the folks at the tastings, was they were using different words to describe things, and I would listen and say, you know, you're absolutely right. That's the word to use. So that was the reason, and this didn't come out of, you know, I didn't grasp this idea out of the great heavens, and the great gods did not speak to me and say, Peter, you must do this. No, I copied some. Yes, I did. The beer writer Michael Jackson, the British one, not the guy with the glove, started out on Fleet Street, writing about a beer. It was a pub column, I believe he did. Your pub or something like that, and he would go in and he would interview 10 or 15 people and would write a column. And eventually, I believe it was either an editor or a friend said, you know, Michael, why don't you turn this into a book? And so he did. He turned it into the World Guide to Beer, which still is the Bible for those of us who follow beer and who enjoy beer and who are trying very much to understand as much as we can about beer. So that is about the ticket today. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Believe me, it's dust in the air. The wall of beer here is, some of these bottles are covered with at least a tenth of a centimeter of dust. And the object is to take them down, dust them off. Those that are classics we'll keep. Those that aren't, we'll get the labels off and put up with the cans that we have been amassing over the tastings over the last few months. Well, anyways, I want to thank everybody for showing up today. I see I've got 2 thumbs up. Oh, I really like that. And for those of you who have stayed around and who are new to the visiting the Old Growler, thank you for showing up and lasting this long. Please subscribe. I would appreciate that. A thumbs up never hurts. And something in the comments box, please, folks. Give me some comments as to what you'd like to see tasted or what you'd like to have talked about. And I would be a pleasure to do that. I would be a pleasure to do that. It would be a pleasure to do that. I would be happy to do that. I'm Pete LaFrance, the Old Growler, hoping you have a great day and looking forward to seeing you next time.